Today is a very special day, Harry. You're celebrating one of the most important milestones of Jewish faith, surrounded by people who care about you deeply. When you were born, I learned that there was really such a thing as joyful tears. While I do not share your religion, our family shares a common value, social justice. And that core value has been deeply rooted in my side of the family too. We can find our family in 14th century historical records in Japan. An ancestor of ours was one of 6 retainers of Ryoshun Imagawa, a renowned poet and commander serving the Ashikaga shogunate during the Muromachi period. Ryoshun Imagawa was a constable in Kyushu between 1370 and 1395, tactfully conducting diplomacy with Korea and China, and successfully controlling rebel uprisings led by one of the emperor's sons. However, the shogun became alarmed by Imagawa's increasingly influential presence in the region and removed him from the position for alleged treason against the government. Imagawa took his men and family, including his mistress and her household, and settled in Horikoshi, where your grandmother and many of your Japanese relatives still live. Imagawa became a governor of the region and built a Buddhist temple where he and his ancestors, and our ancestors as well, have rested since the year 1403. Do you remember visiting that temple with me? Your great-grandfather Kazuichi was a landlord of the area and took care of his tenants. He made sure his tenants' family members could receive a basic education and could get married with adequate household goods. Kazuichi started the greenhouse muskmelon industry in the region, stimulating development of the local economy, for which the Japanese government awarded him with 2 medals of honor. Some of you might know that these melons are cultivated for the aesthetic pattern of the webbing on their rind, as much as for taste, and that these melons, which taste like a honeydew melon, commonly sell for over $100. Despite his achievements, he was a very humble person and shunned the spotlight. Upon his invitation to visit the imperial palace to accept his 2nd medal, he decided instead to go fishing, a pastime that I know you enjoy, Harry. Kazuichi also served as president of Hotokusha, an organization advocating self-reliance and mutual help among villagers rather than dependence on state aid. I think that he will fit right into the IL parrots and workman's circle communities. Upon his death at age 80, your great-grandfather donated his corneas to those suffering from corneal blindness. This was highly unusual for someone of his generation because tradition calls for Japanese people to keep the body whole prior to cremation. As tissue and organ donation was such a novel thing at the time in Japan, the act of charity was covered in the regional newspaper. In that article, our family discovered the identity of the recipient of the corneas, an elementary school student, when the student's mother thanked the donor for restoring her son's vision. He's like shivering. Okay? While your father's side of the family includes 3 human doctors, that is, 3 doctors who treat humans, your mother's side is proud to claim 4 veterinarians. I am very happy that Maki and Retz are here today. Maki's father, my first cousin, is one of the 4 vets, and her grandfather, Kazunori, Harry's great-uncle, who passed away this summer at the age of 91, was another. Kazunori was a vet, an officer of both the Japan Animal Welfare Society and the Japan Veterinary Medical Association. After visiting the Kobe region multiple times in 1995 following the Great Hanshin earthquake, Kazunori observed the difficulties owners were having in finding their missing pets. As a result, he set up a committee to study the problem, which eventually led to the establishment of a program for microchip implantation in companion animals in Japan. Franco's been good. Kazunori wore many hats during his very active life. While a member of the prefectural assembly, he was successful in lobbying for an additional public high school in a town. He also initiated a program in 1970 called Seinen no Fune, the Youth University on the Sea, to develop prefectural leaders. Each year, Youth University on the Sea chartered a ship that sent young adults on missions to different regions of Japan and to international destinations, with the purpose of building social collaborations and expanding understanding among youth from different parts of the world. The Seinen no Fune program ran for over 40 years. At its peak, over 400 youth benefited from its message of international friendship each year. Your grandfather, my father, who passed away long before you were born, was also a person of giving. He was an active member of Lions Club and participated in many events that served the local community. As his father, your great-grandfather, died when he was very young, and he had to support his family, he could not go to college. Yet, he was able to build a successful public works construction company and send your uncle and me to college. Not a big Japanese conglomerate, but a family business that helped to serve the community. The company employed many workers of all ages and treated them fairly and respectfully. It's okay, Franco. In line with family inclinations, your grandparents and great aunt would rescue abandoned animals that had been left near the highway by the office. Over the years, they helped 30 to 40 cats, 2 dogs, and 5 chickens, providing for sterilization and vaccination in addition to food. Your grandfather would often request a morsel of food from each employee's lunchbox to treat the animals. Company staff and service providers might eventually adopt the animals, or they will remain as watchdogs or resident pets at the office, except for the chickens, which ended up as dinner for one employee's family. Harry, it's not just your male ancestors who have worked to repair the world. As your father knows, a very strong vein of tzedek, justice, runs through the female line of our family, from your great-grandmother to your grandmother to me. It is an observation that he made well before we were married, so there is no backing out now. As landlords of their village, your great-grandmother's family often lent assistance to less fortunate residents. Their home was always filled with workers from the rice paddies and others who came for meals, particularly after the war when many families did not have enough food. Your great-grandmother and her mother before her were always feeding people and boarding villagers upstairs in the family home. After retiring at age 75 from the family construction business, your grandmother still goes to work 6 days a week at 5 a.m. to open the building, boil water for tea for all the workers, and straighten up the office. This is how my family views retirement. She also serves as board member of Hitsuji, an organization that provides life skills and employment opportunities to people with mental disabilities. The organization runs a bakery in my hometown of Fukuroi that makes some very tasty breads, prepares and delivers obento lunch boxes, and grows and sells its own vegetables. You and your brother are always asking me why I like to travel so much. Although I was born in Fukuroi and spent my first 10 years in Tokyo, when I was 12, I spent the summer in a 4-H-sponsored international exchange program at Fisher, Minnesota, with a family who ran a farm that produced wheat and sunflowers. At age 15, I spent a year in Georgia, and I graduated high school in California as an exchange student. And I have subsequently lived in Tokyo, where I went to college and had my first job. Australia, Ithaca, New York for grad school, Vanuatu, Hungary, Germany, the cosmopolitan New York City, where you were born, then to New Brunswick, Onomichi, Japan, and lastly, the relatively pedestrian town of Highland Park, New Jersey. Your grandparents gave me opportunities to see the world at an early age, and so many different experiences made deep and lasting impressions on me. I saw many special places in the world where I met people who shaped me into the person I am now. I am glad that we are able to live in Japan for a short time early in your life. I hope that experience gave you some appreciation of your heritage and some perspective on the world at large. I know it gave you a good foundation for Japanese language skills and gave you an opportunity to get to know friends and family from the other side of the planet. I am glad we live in this time, Harry. 75 years ago, when our two countries were at war, your father and I never would have met. You live in a place where you have the freedom to choose what you want to be and how to live your life. Like your ancestors on both sides of the family, I hope you can find passions that you can share with the rest of the world. Here are a few messages from your relatives in Japan.
ハリー君おめでとう。おばあちゃんは遠くに離れていますけど、いつもみんなの幸せを祈ってますよ。友達を大切にして仲良く暮らしてください。ベシちゃんも一緒に祈ってます。
ハリー君おめでとうございます。
おめでとう。ゆずきの将来の夢はパン屋さんです。
はい。まるちゃんは？
まりえの将来の夢は何でもいいです。
はい。
ハリー君、おめでとうございます。大好きおじさんです。体をしっかり動かして、ご飯もりもり食べて、いつまでも元気に頑張ってください。じゃあね。